Kenny, I'm going to go to you with this. I want you to blindly rank these next 5 players, and all 5 of these players who I'm going to mention were drafted in the top 20. So that's the first round of the Boys in the Booth Fantasy Hockey League last year. So I'd like you to blindly rank these 5 players, okay? So the first one you have is JT Miller, 1 to 5. Where do you rank him?
I'll go 1 because there's only one guy ahead of him, and that's Austin Matthews. So if you're going to mention him, then I'll drop him down. But if not, he'll be the top-ranked guy.
Okay, and number 2, out of this 5, where are you ranking Andrei Vasilevsky?
Oof. We did a community mock on Thursday. He went at 34, which is way too low. Last year he was, I believe, 7th or 8th. Which is too high. So I would put him sort of in that middle range where he should be like a mid-second rounder, early second rounder. I mean, depending on who else is in this list, I mean, I probably wouldn't put him too high because I tend to fade goalies a bit. So maybe we'll go with 4 just because I think that elite offensive producers are more impactful for your team than goaltending. But as far as goaltending goes, he's extremely consistent and you know what you're going to get.
Right, and you'll recall last year Harper picked Vasilevsky, I believe, 7th overall, and you and I both roasted him on the podcast. Okay, so number 3, Roman Josi. Where are you taking Roman Josi?
I love Josi. He's extremely complete. You'll remember, I think it was 2 years ago, he was extremely close to hitting that 100-point mark that Carlson just went over. And that, I mean, if you forget about that, you would have him a little bit lower in your rankings. But if you remember that, and if you understand that he does a lot more than just put up points, he does pretty much everything for that blue line, for that team. I would put him probably number 3 just because Miller's a little bit more complete, just given what we're looking at. But Josi is one of the top 3, maybe 4 defensemen. It would probably be Makar, Dahlin, him, and then take your pick of the 4th guy, whether it's Carlson because of his offensive output or, you know, somebody else because of their completeness. But he's definitely a top 5 D.
Okay, so 2 more. The next one I've got for you is Austin Matthews. Where are you ranking Austin Matthews?
Yeah, he's got to be number 1, and I think he's going to be undervalued this year because last year he only put up 40 goals. So, you know, obviously everybody knows who he is. They're going to remember he's put up 60 in the past. But if you look at last year's numbers and potential, like, projections, it doesn't really capture how complete he is. Like, he was doing everything last year. He started blocking shots at a crazy rate last year, which is potentially what got him somewhat injured and limited his goal potential. But he was 1.24 blocks per game, about a hit per game. And then he was taking like almost 4.5 shots per game. He was, I mean, doing everything. And if he could get that goal production back up, he's a top 5 player in fantasy. And I actually drafted him 5th overall in our mock draft on Thursday. So I definitely think if you can find him in any sort of value position later in the first round or later than that, it's a great pickup.
Definitely. So that means you've got Alex Barkov in the 5 spot. How do you feel about that list you just put together, blindly ranking those 5 fantasy players?
I mean, that's a pretty solid. If you had all 5 of those players, that'd be incredible. If you had 2 of them, it would be great. If you drafted your goalie first, you would be going against what I'm all about, so I wouldn't be on board with that. But everybody else, I mean, I wouldn't pick JT Miller as high as I'd pick Matthews. I wouldn't pick Barkov in the same class. I think Barkov is a better actual player than he is a fantasy player. He's still a really good fantasy player, but I think that people mix the fact that he's so complete two-way as a shutdown center and a point producer that they think he's really good in fantasy, and he is good, but I don't think he's like an early second rounder. I think he's more of like a late second, early third rounder, so I would have him in the 5 spot, but that's a pretty good list.